Hi, this is Mark Malberg with Verified Technologies. In this video, we're going to take a look at a couple of software features that will help you see your data better and actually control the numbers you're getting a bit better. So let's start with the topic of filtering. We use filters to smooth out the data so we can see the shape of the part we're measuring. For example, in measuring brakes, we're interested in the shape of the brake rotor, not the roughness of the surface or the grooves or the drillings, but the actual form or the low order shape. When we talk about filtering, we need to have a way of describing how much filtering or how much smoothing we're going to allow. The way we do that is through a term called the filter cutoff value. A typical filter cutoff for brake rotors is 15 undulations per revolution. So 15 means we're going to look at everything up to 15 bumps in one revolution. If we have 50 or 100 bumps along the revolution, we're not going to call that shape. That's roughness or some other kind of thing. But things occurring up to 15 times would be included with a 15 UPR filter. When we filter something, we're actually going to change the measured results that come out of that data. So let's take a look at some roundness data and see how the different filters change our roundness values. Now we should note here that this change happens whether we're measuring roundness or runouts or thickness variations. The more we smooth, the smaller the measured value will become. So let's look at this roundness data here. And this is using a 500 UPR filter. So basically we're including everything in the surface. And with the 500 UPR filter, we have a roundness value of 53.2 micrometers, or 53.2 microns. If we filter it a little bit more, we only include up to 150 undulations per revolution, we'll see that the roundness goes down to 48.6. If we filter it even more and only include up to 50 UPR, we now see that the roundness is 39 microns. And if we filter it all the way down to 15 UPR like we would a brake rotor, we'll see that the roundness is only 32.6. So let's look at this range of roundnesses. 32.6 micrometers, 39.0 micrometers, 48.6 micrometers, 53.2 micrometers. That's a big range of roundness values, and it's all due to filtering. So now that we've seen how filtering can have a significant impact on our results, it makes sense to ask the question, what filter should we use? Well, many times a filter is actually specified on a drawing or a technical document of some sort, but if nothing is specified, I would recommend using a 50, that's 50, UPR Gaussian filter for roundness, flatness, and other measurements made on the roundness screen. When it comes to brake rotors, however, I would recommend a 15 UPR robust filter. To change the filtering for a brake rotor measurement, go to the main menu and choose the filtering option. Here you'll have a list of the filter types for the brake measurement. We've already talked about what the 15 UPR means, the filter cutoff value, but we haven't talked about the filter type yet. There are two types of filters in BrakeView, Gaussian filters and robust filters. A Gaussian filter is a standard smoothing filter used throughout the measurement world. A robust filter is a bit special though. A robust filter smooths the data, but it can also deal with outlying data points, for example where the probe falls into a groove or a slot. The robust filter fills in those points, giving us a true representation of shape. I'd like to cover one last thing in this video, and that's the topic of plotting the data. Often people get confused thinking the scaling of the plot can somehow affect the measured values, and that's not the case. The measured values remain the same no matter how much we magnify the plot. So let's load some new data, and you'll see here we have a very strongly two-lobed brake rotor. If we go to the scale menu, one thing we haven't touched on is that the show tilt in the 3D rotor is turned off. If we turn that on, we can actually get a three-dimensional representation of the tilt along with the thickness variations and other flatness shapes. So here we've turned the tilt back on, and we will re-render the brake rotor. And we can actually see that there's quite a bit of tilt in this measured rotor, and if we look at the runouts, they're quite high compared to the thickness variation. Let's go back to the scale menu and turn that tilt off and actually scale up by using a smaller amount of micrometers per division and scale up the deviations on this brake rotor and re-render it back to a three-dimensional picture. Now you notice as we did this, the thickness variation remained 6.3 and the runouts remained the same up in the 180s. Scaling or turning the tilt on and off on the plot is a great visualization tool, but it does not affect your measured values. Hopefully this video taught you a few things about filtering and the influence of plotting. And if you have any other questions, you can always find us at BrakeView.com. Thanks.